I wasn't supposed to find anything that day. The contract was simple. Survey a dead relay station. Tag what could be salvaged later. Get paid, leave. No heroics. No mysteries. That's the rule if you want to stay alive long enough to enjoy your credits. But halfway through the scan, my instrument started lying to me. Not failing. Lying. Range readings doubled, then snapped back. Mass signatures appeared where empty rock should have been. When I adjusted the filters, a shape emerged. Small, compact, unmistakably artificial. Human-sized. Not drifting, not buried. Just waiting. I landed a kilometer away and walked the rest. The landscape was quiet in a way that felt intentional, like the planet itself was holding its breath. Pale stone under a washed-out sky. No wind, no wildlife, just silence and that shape ahead of me, half-shadowed against the terrain. At first glance, it didn't look like a ship, more like a folded piece of metal that had decided to rest. Smooth, worn surfaces, dark alloy streaked with natural oxidation. No visible seams, no trastes, no marquines irrecognisa. It was too clean to be a wreck and too old to be active. I circled it slowly, tools ready, heart racing. My scanner still refused to give me a straight answer. Power readings fluctuated between dormant and impossible. Whatever this thing was, it didn't obey the rules I'd spent my life repairing. Then I got closer. Too close. The surface shifted. Not violently, subtly. A faint ripple passed through the hull, like muscle under skin. A soft amber line ignited along one edge, followed by another. Not lights. Responses. I froze. Every instinct screamed to back away. Log the coordinates, let someone else deal with it. But this wasn't just salvage. This was a question being asked, and I was the only one there to answer it. I raised my hand. The ship reacted, and that's when I realized this wasn't an abandoned craft. It was a test. Before we go any further, if you enjoy original sci-fi stories about restoring forgotten technology and uncovering alien secrets, consider subscribing to Galactic Restorer, liking the video, and leaving a comment with what you think this ship is. It really helps the channel, and trust me, you'll want to see where this goes. I didn't touch it again. Not at first. That's mistake number one in this line of work. Assuming silence means safety. So I waited. I listened. I watched the faint amber lines crawl across the hull, rearranging themselves like they were thinking. The ship, if that's what it was, stood no taller than me. No cockpit, no access panel, no visible interface. Yet my suit's proximity sensors kept pinging softly, as if something inside was tracking my breathing, my posture, my intent. I spoke out loud. I'm not here to take you apart. The words felt ridiculous the moment they left my mouth. Machines don't care about intentions. But this one reacted anyway. The amber glow dimmed, replaced by a dull, neutral sheen. Not approval, not rejection, more like acknowledgement. I ran a passive scan. No invasive pulses, no probing. The data that came back made no sense. Materials layered at molecular scales that shouldn't coexist. Energy reservoirs folded inward, self-contained, recycling heat into structure. It wasn't just advanced, it was economical, like it had been designed to survive alone for a very long time. That's when I noticed the damage. Not obvious, not catastrophic. A hairline fracture along its underside. Barely visible unless the light hit it just right. Old damage. Neglected, not fatal, but enough to keep the system from completing whatever cycle it was meant to run. So that's it, I murmured. You're stuck. The ship responded immediately. A soft vibration passed through the ground, gentle but unmistakable. The amber lines shifted again, converging near the fracture. It wasn't hiding the damage anymore. It was showing me. I've restored derelicts, drones, even semi-autonomous stations, but nothing had ever presented a problem like this. It wasn't asking for repair in the way humans design machines to ask. It was offering trust, measured and conditional. I knelt beside it, tools still holstered. All right, I said quietly, let's see what you need. A thin panel unfolded from the hull, seamless and precise, revealing an internal cavity pulsing with faint light. No sparks, no alarms, Just an open invitation. That's when it hit me. This wasn't first contact the way the stories sell it. No explosions. No dramatic greetings. Just a quiet moment between a broken machine and someone who fixes broken things. And somehow, that made it far more dangerous. The cavity wasn't hollow. It was layered. Thin, overlapping structures that shifted as I leaned closer, like a mechanical iris deciding how much to reveal. Inside, a lattice of dark metal threads pulsed slowly, feeding energy back into itself in looping patterns I'd never seen before. No central core, no obvious power source, just balance. That's when I understood the real problem. This ship hadn't failed because something broke. It had failed because something went out of balance. I extended a diagnostic probe, careful to keep my movement slow. The moment the probe crossed the threshold, the lattice reacted. Threads tightened. Energy flows rerouted. My probe's readouts spiked, then stabilized, as if the ship had rewritten its own parameters to accommodate my tool. Okay, I muttered. So you adapt. Most machines resist foreign input. This one incorporated it. That was impressive and terrifying. Anything that could learn this fast could also decide I was a threat just as quickly. I pulled the probe back and switched tactics. No direct interference. Observation only. I synced my suit's AI to passive mode and let it map the energy cycles without touching them. Patterns emerged. Oscillations, delays, micro-pauses that lined up with the fracture underneath the hull. The ship wasn't dying. It was waiting, unable to complete a process without destabilizing itself. A memory surfaced. An old instructor's voice from my apprentice days. Restoration isn't about forcing a system to work. It's about understanding why it stopped. I reached into my kit and removed a stabilization module, something I normally use to bridge damage power relays. Primitive by comparison. I hesitated. Introducing foreign tech into something this advanced felt reckless. Before I could decide, the ship acted. The lattice shifted, opening a narrow channel, exactly the size of my module. I laughed once, short and nervous. You're sure about this? The amber lines along the hull brightened, then dimmed like a slow nod. I slid the module into place. No resistance. No surge. The ship absorbed it gently, wrapping its own structures around the unfamiliar device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the vibration returned, stronger this time. The fracture beneath the hull tightened, metal drawing together as energy redistributed. The ship wasn't just repairing itself. It was learning from me, and that's when I realized the risk. If this thing could learn from a simple salvage engineer, what could it become after centuries of contact with the galaxy? The stabilization module vanished into the lattice, dissolved into purpose. The amber lines across the hull faded, replaced by a deeper, warmer glow that traveled in slow, deliberate paths. Not reactive anymore. Reflective. The ship lifted, just a few centimeters off the ground. No thrust. No sound. The dust beneath it settled, as if gravity itself had been negotiated rather than overridden. I stumbled back instinctively, heart hammering, tools clattering at my side. Hey, easy, I said, palms open. It didn't respond immediately. Instead, the glow dimmed again, and a new pattern emerged across its surface. Shapes, not symbols exactly, more like compressed memories unfolding in geometry. My suit AI tried to parse them and failed, but I didn't need translation to understand the intent. The ship was remembering. Images flooded my peripheral display as my neural link picked up stray missions. Starfields warped by unknown drives, structures grown rather than built, other ships like this one, dozens of them, moving together in careful formation. Not a fleet, a network, each small, independent, and thinking. This wasn't a one-off, I whispered. The realization hit hard. This wasn't an escape pod, not a probe. It was a node. A distributed intelligence designed to operate quietly, repairing, adjusting, observing across centuries. And something, war, collapse, abandonment, had left this one stranded. The ship rotated slowly in the air, presenting its damaged underside to me again. The fracture had sealed, but faint stress lines remained. It wasn't asking for more parts. It was asking for judgment. If I finished the restoration, the ship would fully rejoin whatever system it belonged to, or rebuild one from scratch. If I walked away, it would remain dormant, incomplete, safe. I thought about the contracts waiting in my queue, about how often humans rush to activate things they don't understand, about how many ruins started with good intentions. "You don't need to wake up today," I said quietly. The ship hovered in silence. Then, slowly, it lowered itself back to the ground. The glow softened. The patterns faded. It accepted the delay. That decision told me more about its creators than any scan ever could. They had built restraint into the machine, and now, impossibly, it was offering me the same choice. That was the moment I stopped thinking like a salvager and started thinking like a caretaker. I spent the next few hours doing nothing that would show up on a contract report. No cutting, no extraction, no claim markers planted in the ground. I set up a temporary shelter nearby and observed. Watched how the ship behaved when I moved, when I stayed still, when I slept. It never powered down. It never powered up either. The glow remained steady, like a resting pulse. Occasionally, one of the surface plates would shift a few millimeters, then settle back into place. Maintenance behaviors. Self-checks. The kind of quiet routines you only see in systems designed to last longer than their creators. Before we go deeper, if you enjoy original sci-fi stories about restoring forgotten technology and uncovering alien secrets, consider subscribing to Galactic Restorer, liking the video, and leaving a comment. It really helps the channel. That's when the real problems surfaced. Not in the ship, but in me. If I logged this find, it would be classified, studied, dissected. Committees would argue. Corporations would salivate. Militaries would ask what it could do if pushed hard enough. They always do. And this thing, this careful, patient intelligence, would lose the one quality that made it special. Choice. But if I didn't log it, I was breaking every regulation I'd sworn to follow. Hiding technology like this wasn't just illegal. It was dangerous. I'd seen what happened when secrets stayed buried too long. Someone always found them eventually, usually without the restraint to handle them properly. I walked back to the ship as the light shifted overhead. "You picked the wrong person," I told it. "I fix things for a living. I don't decide the fate of civilizations." The hull responded, not with light this time, but with alignment. It rotated slightly, reorienting itself toward the horizon, toward open space, toward possibility. I understood then. It wasn't asking me to decide everything. Just the next step. Restore enough for it to move. Nothing more. No signe permanent. A test of trust on both sides. I opened my kit again, slower now. More careful. I wasn't restoring a ship anymore. I was negotiating with one. I didn't give it power. Not really. I gave it balance. The ship didn't need fuel or a jump drive or weapons. It needed alignment. Micro adjustments across its internal lattice so it could redistribute stress while moving. Like teaching a body how to stand after centuries of stillness. I installed nothing permanent. Instead, I used temporary field anchors, mapping how its structure flexed when it hovered. Each adjustment triggered a response. Too much correction, and the glow dulled. Too little, and the internal rhythms slipped out of sync. It learned fast, faster than I liked. The first true movement was barely noticeable. The ship slid sideways through the air, smooth and silent, then stopped. No versot, no boble. Perfect control. All right, I breathed. You've got legs. The hull brightened slightly. Not excitement, not pride. Readiness. I realized then how small it really was. Human scale by design. Meant to be near people, not looming over them. Meant to observe without intimidation, to intervene without force. That alone set it apart from every alien relic I'd ever studied. As it moved, the ground beneath it didn't scorch or fracture. The air didn't ionize. Whatever field it used respected the environment. The more I watched, the clearer the pattern became. This wasn't exploration tech. It was maintenance tech, a ship built to quietly correct problems before they became disasters. and someone had shut that system down long ago. The question I hadn't asked yet finally surfaced, too late to ignore. What kind of galaxy needs machines like this? I felt a cold weight settle in my chest. If this ship was meant to prevent collapse, then something had gone catastrophically wrong for it to be abandoned here. The ship drifted closer, stopping just short of my reach. Not invading my space, just present, waiting for the next instruction. That's when my long-range scanner chirped. Not a system error, not background noise. A ship had just dropped out of FTL, too close. The scanner chirped again, sharper this time, confirming what I already feared. The incoming vessel wasn't passing through. It was slowing, adjusting its vector toward me. I shut down my beacon immediately, though I knew it was probably too late. Whoever they were, they hadn't found me by accident. The approach was clean, deliberate, professional. The small ship beside me reacted before I did. The warm glow dimmed, retreating beneath its surface like a held breath. Its outline blurred slightly, not cloaking exactly, but bending perception just enough that my eyes struggled to hold on to it. "Can you hide?" I whispered. It didn't answer. It didn't need to. It moved. The ship slid backward, tucking itself into a natural depression in the rock, aligning its hull with the terrain. The effect was uncanny. From a distance, it would look like nothing more than a mineral outcrop. If you weren't looking too closely, I wasn't nearly as subtle. I scrambled to dismantle my temporary shelter, erasing footprints, killing heat signatures. Whoever was coming had the kind of sensors that notice patterns, not mistakes. And I had just spent hours making patterns all over this plateau. The incoming ship broke the cloud layer moments later. Larger than mine, industrial, black hull, angular, purpose-built, not a scavenger, not a trader, a recovery vessel. I felt my stomach drop. That meant someone knew this place mattered, maybe not exactly why, but enough to send professionals. People who wouldn't hesitate to take the ship apart if it didn't cooperate. The recovery ship hovered overhead, engines roaring against the silence. A search beam swept the ground, passing over me once, twice. I stayed still, breath shallow, heart pounding so hard I was sure it would give me away. The beam paused, then shifted, sliding toward the depression where the small ship hid. The alien craft responded instantly. The ground vibrated as a low-frequency pulse rippled outward, distorting the beam just enough to make the readings inconclusive. Static flared on my visor as my suit struggled to compensate. It was protecting itself, and me. I realized then that this wasn't just a test of restoration. It was a test of allegiance. If they found it, they'd claim it. If they claimed it, whatever quiet purpose it served would be rewritten by human hands. The search beam withdrew. The recovery ship adjusted course, lingering for a tense moment before pulling away, unsatisfied but cautious. As the roar faded into the distance, the small ship emerged from hiding and hovered beside me once more. It hadn't asked if I wanted to be involved. It had already decided I was. Silence returned, but it wasn't the same silence as before. It was heavier now, loaded with consequences. The recovery ship was gone, but the fact that it had come at all changed everything. This place was no longer unknown. It was only temporarily overlooked. The small ship hovered in front of me, closer than ever. I could see fine details in the hull now, subtle wear patterns, micro-abrasions that told stories of long service rather than battle. This wasn't a survivor of war. It was a survivor of neglect. "You're not safe here anymore," I said quietly. The ship's surface rippled, not with light but with alignment. It angled itself toward me, then toward the sky, then back again. A simple sequence. A question. I checked my fuel reserves. Marginal but workable. My cargo bay empty. My legal obligations suddenly very flexible. If I left now and filed a partial report, someone else would come back better prepared. If I stayed, I risked becoming a missing footnote. Another salvager who flew too close to something bigger than himself. The ship drifted lower until it was nearly touching the ground. Vulnerable. Waiting. I felt the weight of it then. Not fear, but responsibility. I'd restored enough for it to move, to hide, to defend itself in subtle ways. But not enough to escape. Not yet. All right, I exhaled. One last thing. I began dismantling my own shuttle's auxiliary systems. Navigation buffers, redundant stabilizers, anything I could safely spare. Temporary integrations only. Enough to give the ship options. Not enough to turn it into a weapon. As I worked, the ship mirrored my actions internally, adapting faster each minute. This wasn't theft. It was cooperation. Two different kinds of intelligence meeting in the middle. By the time the sun dipped lower in the pale sky, the ship was hovering steadily beside my shuttle, aligned and ready. Whatever it was meant to become next, I knew one thing for certain. I was no longer just restoring the past. I was helping decide the future. I never powered it up completely. That's the part people always expect. The dramatic launch, the sudden leap into the stars. But that would have been the wrong ending. Too loud, too final. Instead, I gave it something quieter. I transferred star charts that weren't in any public database. Old trade routes that no longer existed. Regions marked unsafe not because of war, but because something there had been deliberately avoided. Human mistakes, carefully documented. The ship absorbed the data slowly, thoughtfully. It didn't rush. That alone told me I'd made the right call. When I stepped back, it didn't follow. It hovered there, steady and calm, no longer stranded, but not fleeing either. It had options now. Time. Choice. I erased my own logs last. Every trace, except one encrypted fragment only I could read. No coordinates. No signatures. Just a reminder, some things aren't meant to be owned. As I lifted off, the plateau shrank beneath me. The pale sky swallowed the horizon. I watched until the ship was nothing more than a faint distortion in the terrain, present but unseen. Exactly how it wanted to be. I don't know if I'll ever see it again. I don't know what it will become. But I know this. Somewhere out there, a machine designed to quietly fix a broken galaxy is awake again. Learning, choosing, waiting for the right moment to move. And for the first time in my career as a salvager, I didn't bring something home. I left it where it belonged.